was going to be able to be ready by our previously scheduled in training dates is not going to be at a place that will be helpful for training. Um, so we have to reschedule our April end-to-end training and boot camp dates. Because those dates were, we originally had it, so we had end-to-end, and then we'd have a week and then come back for boot camp. Um, so everybody can kind of play with everything. We have to pivot to a longer training in person just due to, the need for you all to train your local areas. So there's an April for the Chicago team. There was an April like 13th and 14th date. That week of April 13th, that was the end-to-end user training. That's going to be pulled off the calendar. The boot camp training, which was the week of April 20th, that will be pulled off your calendar. We're now condensing those into a 5-day training, half day on Monday, half day on Friday, for that will include all of the information. Um, we will be having a central location training and a northern location training. So the pros are for the people in Chicago that we're going to have to travel to the central region. Now you'll have one closer to your neck of the woods, and everything will be kind of a one-stop shop training. This will include our OET super users. So if you're on the call from OET, we'll have a conversation of what this looks like from our training standpoint. But I'll repeat it again. We're going to cancel our the week of April 13th end-to-end user training and the week of April 20th boot camp. They will now be condensed into a week-long training the week of May 18th. We'll keep the pre-summit session on the 6th. And then we do understand this is going to condense your training by 2 weeks. And I know like Tori and Robert and a lot of you have already sent in your training dates. There's going to be, I think, a couple of training that you'll have to reschedule to accommodate for this. So I'm going to pause there for any questions that you have.
First minute or two about the training being rescheduled from April to in May. I guess this is the new schedule. And it's going to be an in-person at a
Yeah.
closer location for people
So,
like I'm from Lake County. Where would I go to for the training for Lake County in Chicago?
yep. So you'd have the option, Robert, to go to the central location if you would rather, but there will be a training. There will be two trainings happening simultaneously. One in the northern region, likely Moraine Valley, and one in the central region, likely Springfield. They'll happen the same dates, May 18th through 22nd. So like Joel, Robert, Carrie. I'm trying to think who else. LWS 7, you'd already know, you go up there. Um, you and Lisa, I think you'd also probably want to do a northern location too. You'd be able to go to the northern training. It will be identical subject matter and identical agenda. We'll have representatives from workNet and AIR and OET at both locations. Um, so, and then Tina and the LBS 7 crew, we've ensured, like we've added in to that training the amount of people, like your relationship managers and the representatives for AJCs. So they would be invited to that training as well. Tina?
Okay, thank you.
Uh,
Thank you.
yes. Quick question. The May 26th, June 19th career planner field training window, what does that consist of?
So that's just the window that we would, that you're originally you had from the end of the summit until like close to the end of
Yeah.
June to train your LVIA. Because we're not having training for you all to know how to do the training until the week of the 22nd. It's really May 26th through June 19th. I know LVIA 7, there might be some wiggle room there, but that we would say that would be the time that you need to train your region in. So Tori, that would be like 18, 19, 20, 23. I think I'm forgetting one. LBS 7, that would be the time you train your area in.
Okay.
Robert 1 and 2 and 6.
No, I zoned out. Where did you say the Central Illinois training was going to take place?
The Central Illinois training will likely be in Springfield. Um, we're having our great and helpful administrative admin, Carrie Campardo, look at different meeting locations. It looks like there's the CMX complex in Springfield is available. So the Springfield location will have a little bit more wiggle room. And as far as like Joel, if you wanted to attend the central location instead, the northern one, because we've added some relationship managers and American Job Center representatives to help our LBS 7 trainers, that one is going to be a little bit tighter. So we just need to coordinate if anybody was trying to switch into that. But Joel, we had anticipated you potentially wanting to go to the northern
Actually,
training.
probably, I would say more than likely both Carrie and I would do Central
Oh, okay.
rather than go to Chicago
Okay.
because it's kind of distance wise, it's shorter, but time wise and headache traffic wise, way easier for Springfield.
Okay. That's perfect. That works. Yep. Tori.
So thank you for the update. And I know you mentioned that you realize that's going to affect our area because we did have, I think, a training scheduled for the 20th and 21st, that week of May. So I'll talk. I think it'll be fine. We still have like the week of June 1st through the 5th available. But if the once I kind of coordinate with LBA 18, if it's not available, is it okay that we push out a week through like the week of the 22nd of June? Um,
So
or
I
would
would just say the to do it. The goal or the idea behind it ending on the 19th is that people would have a week to play with it before we go live on July 1.
Got
Um,
it.
However, if it can be done like earlier in the week, that last week, and you're available for like office hours and we're available, we do, I, you know, I didn't want
Okay.
to tell you all this because I know it's going to impact your training schedule. We just figured it out yesterday on like what the official plan would be. Um, but yeah, just let me know, Tori, what if you
Yeah,
need
I
help.
will. We can talk offline. Yeah, I'll let you know. Because worst case, I guess we could also probably combine a group and just do two, was going to be my other thought. So, because I think we have like three scheduled right now, but we may, um, if dates don't work, I can talk with the group about combining and doing like two. So I
And
think
also,
we'll be fine, but I'll touch base if not.
I'll also
Hey,
flag,
Sarah.
Tori, especially for your area that has, 5 LWIAs, if there was someone from like 20 or 19, 23 that wanted to come to that in-person training with you, I think we'd have room and that would maybe take a little bit of pressure off you if there was someone that could be there from those neighboring LWIAs.
Okay, that's good to know. I'll make a note of that as well. Thank
Oh,
you.
Hey,
yeah.
Sarah.
Hey, Ray.
Hey, so two questions. So
Yep.
one, I know the all personnel staff meeting was scheduled for May 21st.
Yep. That is, we're working on that internally of what needs to be our like OET plan with that. This will be during that time and likely we'll have to push back the all staff meeting. We're still talking to Julio and or push forward. We're talking to Julio and the all staff planning committee, but
Okay,
yeah.
all right. And then so originally the OET field staff training was going to be the 19th and the 20th. So
Yep.
do we have any planned dates at this point, or is it kind of still up in the air of when it'll be?
So originally we had two different like sub trainings. One's focused primarily on LWS 7 and how to train their relationship managers within the partnership, and then also the American Job Center representatives. And then the other was for our OET staff, like our super users, the monitoring and regional or in rapid response. Now, all of those trainings will be in one of these two locations. So the super users from OET, the people that were going to be trained like the 19th and the 20th, I believe, they'll be at this training instead of needing to go do a separate location or a separate training. The relationship managers and the AJC reps will be at the northern training. So everyone will get the same training at the same time, kind of like an intensive moment of training, versus specifically our core team needing to get the training and then go out and do it. We're inviting our super users to that training. If there's additional time that we think that we need to set aside due to, I don't, any kind of scheduling, we can look at that too to have it within May 26th to June 19th. But that is the current plan.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any more thoughts? Am I missing anything in the chat? The boot camp, we're working on getting it recorded, and the materials, yeah, will be available electronically. And then I can send out the days of the training, like the times. It's a half day Monday, half day Friday, full day Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. And you know, I'm not just saying this for silver lining purposes, but looking at what will be ready for the system and how we're going to do this training, I do think it makes a lot of sense to do it all in one time. That way you can get like the purpose and the policy and directly go into what all the system elements are versus, kind of a truncated view of everything.
Yeah, Sarah,
Um,
I also was hesitant to say the silver lining, but a positive out of this is that that week in May, when you come together in person, you will experience the career planner field training as a learner first, and then we will go back and work together on how to deliver it yourself. But the nice thing about this now is that you will have fully experienced the same training that you will be turning around and delivering, which wasn't going to be possible in the old model. So you'll have a much deeper familiarity with the training that you're delivering, as well as all the skills and techniques that you need to turn around and deliver it.
And Crystal, we're working on the agenda this week. So by next week, when we talk to you all, I think that we'll be ready to say, like, this is what we're going to go over and how we're going to go over it. One of the major issues of why we ended up pivoting to this plan was like the career planner dashboard wasn't going to be available for you all at the training and boot camp. And that's really going to be like the nucleus of a career planner's day, or a supervisor's day. So without that, it would be like, hold please, imagine a dashboard. So instead of doing that, we're going to actually be able to get into the system and work in it. And like Gina said, we'll have 2 days where everyone's a learner, and then 2 days where everyone is going to put their trainer hats on and then practice actually training, which is going to be exciting. Okay, are there any other questions that you all have? Concerns? Tomatoes you would like to virtually throw? Okay. Well, if there's no more questions, again, like Tori, and I know there's some LWS 7 questions, you email me, we can set up a time to chat, or I can also stay after during this call as well. Okay, the next item on the agenda is to clear up a couple of questions that we had from last week's training. To remind everyone, and I'll just pop back to the last slide, Gina. We're focusing on the policy, practice, and purpose of this 2.0 journey. So you will have time to navigate IWDS 2.0, the system, but during our time together, we're really focusing on like what's the purpose of everything, what are the policy changes, and then what practice or procedures are going to be changing in the process. A lot of P words. But to clear up a couple of questions from last week, there were some questions on self-attestation and virtual meeting options. So we wanted to make sure that you all had answers before we went on to the next section. For self-attestation, I worked with our workNet team and our policy team, and I'm not going to go over this slide. This is all the allowable eligibility criteria that self-attestation would be allowed with a career planner. I think the more important slide is our next slide, which is the times where self-attestation is not allowed. So when it is allowed, it's like most of the list. This is the time that it's not allowed. So like selective service, if someone is getting UI benefits, a lot of dislocated worker fields are not allowed to be self-attested to, and then receiving kind of like different social service funding, so like SNAP or free and reduced lunch. So these are the reasons that they would not be allowed. But if we go to the next slide, I'm going to walk through how self-attestation would work. So we talked about last week, a customer will either enter into the system on their own on the website, or they'll be working with a career planner. They'll fill out a pre-screen and application, and then have the opportunity to upload documentation to prove whichever eligibility criteria. The next step is for a career planner to kind of review that information. And if self-attestation is allowed, then the career planner needs to work directly with the customer. This isn't something that can be done, the customer doing it on their own or the career planner doing it on their own. It really has to work in tandem. So a career planner would say like, okay, it looks like you're missing whichever, this one thing or these three things. Yep, these are the allowable ones. The previous ones were the not allowable ones. Only one self-attestation form is needed per customer. So even if they need multiple eligibility criteria that's needed to be verified through self-attestation, it's only one form. The customer then must attest to each applicable eligibility statement, sign and date the form, and then once that form is signed, the career planner would upload the form into the document upload section. Then they would have like a screen that says like this form counts for these different eligibility criteria. And then you would proceed with eligibility certification. We'll just flag that, like we said last week, although they may not need their driver's license per se to become eligible, they can do self-attestation instead. If someone wants to have a job at the end of their journey with our services, working with the customer to help them get that documentation needs to happen still so they can, actually meet their goals upon exit. Yep, Tori?
So then I'm assuming that there's going to be a universal form that is created by DCEO that we use, not like each individual LWIA having a self-attestation form. Is there going to be like a template or something? Okay.
Yep,
Perfect.
we have a template. It's going right now, it's going through legal to make sure that it's, up to snuff on that end. So yeah, you all will be able to like access a form, print it out, have the customer mark, whatever it is needed, sign it, date it, and then the career planner can upload it right into the system. All right. If we go to the next slide. Okay, this was flagged last week when we used the phrase in-person meetings. You all flagged a really important thing, which is you all got really good at virtual meetings during COVID. We want to note that virtual meetings are allowable, but highlight some reasons why an in-person meeting may be helpful also. So if a customer has already uploaded their documents, so you can review their application, you can see that they've uploaded the correct documents, it makes sense that a virtual meeting would be allowed, right? Like there's nothing really that you have to exchange during a meeting. However, if someone needs help uploading documents, like for instance, they filled out their application, but there's no documents, or you realize like they don't have the documents, they need to do a self-attestation form. An in meeting or in-person meeting really should be scheduled to complete the process. We don't want any circumstances where someone's trying to get you their documentation virtually just because of like PII and HIPAA and all of those things. We don't want you all to be open for any of that. So we also want to flag that in-person meetings really help to ensure that those documents can be reviewed if they need to bring them during that meeting, or if there's like, we don't want to be an incomplete certification. And we also don't want to have multiple meetings during the eligibility certification if possible. So we don't want somebody to come in and we say like, oh, well, we actually needed 10 other things and then come back a different day. Are there any questions there?
If you go back one slide, I think Mark had a suggestion on one of the bullets.
Yeah. Please change the word required to allowable. I think I did when I was talking about it, but yep, we'll change that. Okay. There's no questions on self-attestation. Today we're going to get into the getting started assessment. I'm going to pass it over to Gina to go through it.
Thanks. Hi, everybody. Good to see you today. We're going to spend some time talking about the new Getting Started assessment and the role it plays in the journey a customer is taking to the point where they are getting the services that they need. I thought we'd start by, again, trying to just put ourselves in the shoes of our career planners out in the field. What would you say the career planners in your local area would explain to be the purpose of the assessments that we give our customers as we're moving towards getting them services? You can put it in the chat, or you can come off of mute. How would your career planners explain the purpose of assessments on the path to WEOS services?
A gold star for anyone who answers Gina's probing questions.
You mean what we would tell the customers when we explain to them, like, okay, now we've certified you're eligible to pursue our services. Now we're gonna do an assessment. Now we're moving into the next phase. And,
yep.
Oh well, we just get the big picture, identify your needs, most immediate barriers, learn more about you. Kind of put it more that we're not doing this to see how you fit into our framework, but how our framework might assist and fit you. So, you put that I hate to say spin, because it's not like we're trying to deceive them, but like if you put that spin on it, usually they're more, they understand a little bit more, and then they're more amenable to moving forward with, the perfunctory required things, but also, open to sharing more about their situation. So.
Yeah, I love that. And that's really consistent with what folks are putting in the chat. And that's the message that we want to continue as we integrate this new Getting Started assessment into the process and, work with customers to help them understand what's happening at this stage of their engagement with us. So, just continuing to talk about assessment as a means of identifying customers' strengths and needs and goals, doing that in an objective way and in a comprehensive way so that we can create personalized set of services for them, and trying to do that in a way that continues to build on that foundation of relationship that we're creating between career planners and customers so that it feels supportive and ongoing and like everybody has got some skin in the game in supporting their success. So this process in IWDS 2.0 has been designed to support that approach. So to emphasize that relationship-based conversational approach. So all of the questions in the Getting Started assessment have been drafted in a way that is very customer-centered and conversational, allows and makes it easy for career planners to build that trust, because the process is very predictable. It's happening in every local workforce area. The questions are, being used by everyone. It allows us to understand barriers that customers might be facing, to understand those early so that we can help them. And it supports and reinforces this idea that our relationship with them, with customers, is an ongoing partnership. And finally, the Getting Started assessment in IWDS 2.0 was designed around this idea of we're going to collect all the information that we can use, and then we're going to use all the information we collect. So that's being very respectful of the customer and respectful of career planners. Any questions that are answered earlier in the process through the intake process and the application process, that information all gets pulled into the Getting Started assessment. So we're not asking any questions again that have already been asked, and then we're only asking for the information that we know we can use to help the customer. And I see a couple more comments coming in. Oh, great. Yes, continuing with this idea of the customer-centered assessment conversation. So, thinking for a moment about what the customer is going through, we all know, because we've been assessed at various points in our career, it can be uncomfortable. Customers can be asking why they're being assessed. They're wondering if it's going to be fair. They may be bringing some negative experiences from their past into this idea of having their skills and needs assessed. And so, we're working to structure a process that's as supportive as possible and sort of honors where they are and is respectful of that. What is the customer experiencing in this journey? Just contextualizing it for all of us, right? So they've been found eligible right here. And now they're going to complete the Getting Started assessment with the career planner. If they need training as part of their career plan, there may be other assessments that they take. And then they're going to be sort of in an integrated way. This is sort of a circular, nonlinear process here, but then we're moving straight into the career plan, identifying goals and services and signing a career plan. So this is all sort of from the customer's perspective, sort of a continuous process that's leading to signing their career plan. So how does IWDS 2.0 support this? Like I said, the system pulls in data from previously answered questions. All the language is plain language, asset-based, customer-facing language. And then because this Getting Started assessment is leading to the career plan phase, the system automatically starts adding recommended services to the customer's recommendation page based on how they're answering those assessment questions. So it's allowing for this continuous sort of seamless transition that a career planner can use to, provide that service to customers. I can see that there's something coming in the chat, so I'm just going to check. David, yes, some customers don't want a partnership, and this is also an opportunity for them to understand how the system works and decide whether it's the right support for them. All right, so what does a career planner do during this phase in the Getting Started assessment? So we'll dig in, right? They're bringing with them these ideas about how can I share useful information? How can I build trust? How can I use this conversation to demonstrate and continue to build on this foundation of respect? And how can I be transparent about what's happening and how, what the pathway is from this particular point in the service delivery experience to the customer getting the help that they're looking for and, feeling like they're making progress towards achieving their goals. Okay, so new policies and practices associated with the Getting Started assessment. So all adult customers who are certified eligible are going to then work with a career planner to complete the Getting Started assessment. Youth customers is a little bit different because youth customers can do eligibility, the Getting Started assessment, and career plan development in any order because that's how WIOA policy and regulations work. So for youth, there's a little bit of flexibility about the order of operations here, but for adult customers, we're moving from in a fixed way from eligibility determination to the Getting Started assessment and then to the career plan. The assessment process will auto-populate an enrolling service, comprehensive and specialized assessment, once the Getting Started assessment is complete. So as soon as the Getting Started assessment is complete in IWDS 2.0, then the customer will have auto-populated an enrolling service. Does that make sense? Does anyone have any questions about that?
So if we don't want them to have a comprehensive specialized assessment, we need to avoid completing the basic skills assessment or completing the assessment. If they say when we're meeting with them, I don't want to pursue this.
So the goal of the system is to really encourage, and I think, we get to say this every week, a universal access for customers to get our services. We understand that there are going to be times where someone says, "Oh, I don't want to do this. I'm here and I don't want to do it." If that's the case, the career planner has to note in their that customer's profile why people are not going through and finishing the Getting Started assessment. What we do not want to have happen is local areas use their previously known suitability, like in the back of their head, and kind of decide that for the customer. If the customer is deciding, like, I actually don't have the time or the bandwidth, or I just broke my foot and I don't think I can commit to this, that's okay. Customer choice is something that obviously we want to keep at the forefront, but the system will flag that and then make sure that there's like a note within the system. That way, our monitors will be looking at like how many Getting Started assessments don't finish and why. Does that make sense, David?
No, certainly not customer friendly to staff.
Right. So we had a lot of conversations about this. The Getting Started assessment is the initial and comprehensive kind of combined. We had conversations that at what point in the Getting Started assessment would someone become enrolled in services? And after those conversations, we decided that at the end of the Getting Started assessment, once someone has gone through all the questions, so at this point, the customer has filled out a pre-screen, filled out an application, submitted documents, met with the career planner, and at this point, at the end of the Getting Started assessment, they will have gone through lots of questions as to, why they want services, what are their goals, etc. At the end of that Getting Started assessment, the system will auto-enroll customers. So your original question of if a customer decides in the middle of it, it's not for them, what happens? Nothing happens yet. But the system will prompt the career planner to explain why the Getting Started assessment isn't going to be finished. We don't want customers not to get services, and just because one career planner thinks like, "Ooh, I don't know if they're ready." We really want that to be a conversation and something that's done like in full knowledge with the customer. Did that make more sense?
So if a customer wants truck driver training and decides that they don't want to go through all the hassle of WIOA, we have to enroll them even though they don't want job search assistance.
That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that if a customer wants truck driver training, for instance, and throughout the conversation of the Getting Started assessment, they learn that I'm not quite sure what they would learn to make them not want assistance. Um, but we do want to encourage if it's not right for them outside of like if they want training, that's a conversation that you'll know at the beginning of the getting started assessment. They would have flagged their goals at the beginning of the pre-screen. You would repeat them with the customer during the getting started assessment and kind of go through the different barriers or characteristics that the customer could have. Um, I don't know if that answered your question.
Let's go down a different pathway, the suitability. So they're eligible for truck driver training, but in the assessment, we discover they're not a suitable candidate for that. We explore other options that might be available to them. They're not interested in the other options.
So when we get to the training assessment, that is really where all of the suitability questions are, not all of them. That's where a lot of the suitability questions are baked in. We do flag them more or less in the getting started assessment, but we're really, the point of this all is to make sure that one, customers can have other services besides training. I know that there's like a real push because of the minimum training expenditure and a lot of pressures local areas have to put people into training. But we can do, as WIOA, a lot for customers outside of training. So if they aren't able to, if you get through the training assessment and you believe that they need a lot of supportive services to successfully complete training and they deny those services, you can say that they're not suitable for training. But there's other things that you can still give the customer. I know Mark's online, but there are other services that we can give to people. And we really want to encourage local areas to start thinking about our services, not just as training, but really as like, how can we help people reach their goals within our funding? So I do understand that the shift from how can we just get someone to training, and if they're not suitable for training, what do we do? But there are a lot of things still we can do with customers that doesn't necessarily involve training. And Tori, I know your hand's up, but I'm going to let Mark chime in really quick in case he has additional information from my previous comment.
Well, just to follow up, I understand where Dave's going is we do an assessment and then find out we've provided no other services and they've chosen not to go through training. We still have to keep them enrolled, and that is unfortunately we owe a law. We don't have a choice. Once an enrolling service is provided, they have to be enrolled, and that assessment is an enrolling service. So I understand the concern of getting someone in a program and then you don't really have any connection with them if they choose not to go through any services, including training. But if the service has to occur upon enrollment, we can't back that enrollment out.
And that's per federal guidelines of what an
Correct.
enrolling service is.
In some local areas where other sort of screening things are currently happening, and now those screening things are going to happen later in the process, this may result in more enrolled customers than previously had. Is that the concern that some of you are raising?
Yes. And how do we do follow up? How do we track for performance? Most of these people will leave us angry and will not re-engage.
Well, and I'm sorry, Tori, I know your hand's getting tired up there, but I've worked with Mark and the reporting team to say, like, okay, if someone's enrolled and hasn't gotten a training service, like, what's the performance that we need, that local areas need to keep in mind? I don't know, Mark, if there's something that you can note with that, like if someone's enrolled in a non-training service. I know that there's a
Just
few things.
two things is one, we'll still be collecting their IDS wage data. So hopefully if they get employed, we could report it. And if they are not employed and you go 90 days without, if you go 90 days without another service and they exit and they're not employed, follow-up is not a mandatory service, man. Follow-up only for adult and dislocated worker, I'm speaking, only occurs when someone has unsubsidized employment. However, from a perspective of a program performance, it would still behoove a program to try to contact that individual if you're not getting any kind of report saying they're employed. Just saying that they don't need follow-up because they aren't employed at exit doesn't, doesn't help get that performance outcome if it's not an IDS managed kind of process. And then go ahead and go to Toriana.
Yeah, I think my comment is kind of similar to what you guys are discussing, but on the second bullet there, you said that the assessment process auto-populates enrolling. Is that just for adult and dislocated worker? Because I thought like the youth ones were non-enrolling services, or is that changing? I just want to make sure I'm still understanding those two things correctly.
The youth, and I need our policy person, Laura, on the call for this. I know that youth, you can do like the getting started, the career plan and eligibility all at one time, and then you would enroll someone. So the second bullet as it stands without any like clarification, we're really focusing on the adult dislocated worker track, Tori. But
That's correct, Tori. There's three services that occur for a youth pre-enrollment, including the objective assessment. So you
Right.
would be doing that before you enroll at a youth, but those assessments for adults dislocated worker are an enrolling service and occur as eligibility is being made and determined.
Okay, correct. And so that then my second part was just kind of what everyone else, what you guys were talking about. So I understand the process is after these adults and dislocated worker get enrolled, they're basically like they're in career services, and then you get to, so we had one actually recently who came in, wanted training, we enrolled. They got the three, enrolling services. So we did the assessment, the development of IEP. And then for whatever reason, once it was time to start training, it turned out that their transcripts that they had from the school showed, once it got sent over to the college, it showed that they never actually earned the diploma. It was something weird that happened, even though this customer had like a diploma. So, anyway, the person didn't get into training. And so here we are with this individual, and we're helping them, and he stopped engaging. And now, because he couldn't get in, he doesn't want to call back. And we're sitting there with those three enrolling services. And so, what I just instructed my staff to do is obviously try to reach out for the 90 days. And once they don't respond, they're going to basically exit, and that's just like the end of that. So I do have concern with everybody else's how this is going to, I think we have some comments in the chat about how this is going to affect performance moving forward. I'm not opposed to it, but I'm curious to see what that's going to look like in the future. And, as we continue to or start enrolling these individuals who may not actually go to training like they really want to do and stop engaging with us. So that's all my comment is. Thank you.
thanks, Tori.
This is also, this is also making me think about what information do potential customers get during the pre-screen and application process, so that they have their eyes open about what they're moving through and aren't surprised when they get to the getting started assessment about what the expectations are of participation. So maybe we can take a look to Sarah and make sure that the information that you all would want customers to have is very clear.
Yes. Well, and that's what's great about having these conversations first is Gina and I have talked about it's like the perfect FAQ for when you all have conversations with your local areas and then also one follow-up ones that we'll have with the directors. Robert?
Yes, I was listening to some of this stuff y'all talking about, which is true. And I know when we enroll people from the beginning before they start going to a training, um, how can I say, a training provider, or the training, career training or something like that. But it's interesting what I'm hearing is that yes, the initial assessment, the comprehension, the development of IEP, there's like 3 to 4 different services that's being enrolled in them. Okay, we get that part. But the part I'm trying to make sure that I hear correctly, if somebody, I'm gonna go back to the CDL person, decided not to go, did I heard correctly that we still had to put that provider into that person enroll service? Or is that correct? Because if a person do not want to attend that training, to my knowledge, we do not have to put that in under his service. Is that not correct,
Or are
Mark?
you saying if a
Yeah, I
person
think
doesn't
does
want
not
training, would you
right.
have to send them to the training? And that's
It sounds like it's saying that it was we talked about it, right? It was on the plan for him to attend. He say he had everything to attend. The day come for him to enroll in training. He said, I ain't going again. Are we still required to put that CDL training under that service for that person? I guess I wanted to make sure that I heard that correctly.
if a customer no longer wants to go to that training,
Yes. Yeah, that person, "Oh, I don't want to do the CDL. I might look into something else or work with the career advisors to do something else." I'm just want to make sure that I'm not hearing that if if the talk was there for him to attend the training come up and he didn't attend, do we still have to add that service line to
No,
that customer?
the service doesn't start till they attend the first day. Just because you
Okay.
enroll, I mean, most people
no.
get enrolled in training prior to the start. I don't know from a fiscal perspective, what happens if an individual doesn't go, but they've gone beyond the date where full refund can be made. That's a fiscal issue that I don't want to touch.
Well, I know if they
But yeah,
attended,
if they've not received a service, you don't put that service in there.
okay. But yeah,
I
if
think
they
you'd have to have some clear notes from the
right.
career planner saying, "Hey, we had agreed to this training. We enrolled the individual, and before, at the time of the first day of training, whatever, the individual never showed up or chose not to go or canceled or whatever." So, you want to make sure you note that. And I don't know if we've got anything more than career case notes right now that would help identify that occurred. But no, I don't think we would indicate a service received if it never was received.
Okay. Okay,
Same with any other service. If they just didn't show up to the appointment, then you backtrack that out and say, well, we didn't have a service given. Hopefully you can reschedule if that's the case. Maybe they were sick or had some other issues of
right.
being able to attend. But yeah, you don't mark a service received if it wasn't received in my mind.
Okay, good. The only time I would, when you talk about the fiscal side and they was into the training and they started 2 or 3 days, we all look at the provider cancellation policy. If the cancellation policy said, well, if the cost was 5,000, but we refund you 4,005, well, that service is going to stay in there to represent the 500 we had to pay, even though it would be a no. But other than that, if they give them a full refund, then we don't put that service in, and we do document it in as case notes justifying why this client did not want to attend. Okay,
Mhm.
Yeah, well, we
So I
might
want to,
go ahead, Gina.
sorry, I want to pause. These are important questions, and we've written them down here. We only have a few minutes left today, and I want to try to keep us focused on the getting started assessment phase of the process. Is it okay, Robert, if we put that in the parking lot? We're going to have another session where we're talking about, services and training and adding services and all of that.
yeah, put it right next to the Ferrari, please.
Okay, I'm parking it right next to the Ferrari. Okay, so just to recap where we are, the Getting Started assessment is new and is going to trigger a new procedure in local areas, and that procedure is going to result in customers getting enrolling services before they have been assessed for training. So we're going to know that. We're going to hold that. We can talk more about it as we keep moving forward. But I'm going to keep us moving to talk a little bit more about this getting started assessment itself. So the purpose of the assessment, so up until the point at which the assessment is completed, the individual has not received an enrolling service. So we are still pre-enrolling service for the rest of this conversation where we're just talking about the getting started assessment. Okay, so the purpose of this is to have a conversation with customers about the questions that they previously answered during intake and get the additional information that a career planner will need to identify goals and objectives for the individual's career plan. It's going to work to combine both the initial and comprehensive assessments while asking for some additional data that we need for federal reporting that we didn't ask on the application side. And then based on how each question is answered, the system flags services or referrals, and that will be displayed on the customer dashboard. So this is a tool for career planners. The system is automatically going to flag potential services and other supports this customer may need. This, like many other aspects of IWDS, is a dynamic system. So not every customer will be presented with the exact same questions, depending on how they answer previous ones. This stage in the workflow can seamlessly transition into the development of the career plan, depending on how the career planner structures this interaction with the customer. The services that get recommended as the customer is answering the getting started questions can become the initial draft of the career plan. So we'll talk more about that when we get to that stage. So here we are, getting started assessment. When do you see it? How does it happen? How does it show up for you? Oh, I see a lot of things happened in the chat. Hold on. Sarah, are there things in here that we need to talk about?
Haley's note taker added some things. Mark responded to a few performance things.
Okay. Okay. So once the application is completed, the documents are submitted, the career planner certifies the customer is eligible, the system will prompt the career planner to continue to the getting started assessment. So IWDS 2.0 will prompt the career planner now for the getting started assessment, which was not previously available in the system, but now it is. Eligibility has been certified. It's completed with a career planner. It's designed for the career planner to read the questions aloud and enter the customer's responses into the system. So this is not an assessment that the customer can complete through the self-service portal. They need to be with a career planner. It's a guided conversation between the customer and the career planner, and it's going to build on the intake responses to identify career goals and objectives. When you do training with your career planners, there will be an opportunity to practice this process. And when you come to boot camp, we will practice this process. So like I said, the system is intuitive. So not every, it is not going to be in the exact same conversation every time a career planner sits down with a customer, right? Each customer is going to get a customized set of questions based on how they are answering and based on the responses they're providing. So it uses skip logic to make sure that we're doing that. And then here are the sections. So digging a little deeper into the goals, gathering education history, gathering employment expectations, employment history, health, skills and interests, transportation, a lot of the barrier questions, identifying barrier information, gathering veteran information, and additional demographics. There are a few of these fields that can be completed independently by the customer if they elected to do that. Like there's a couple of these things around skills and interests and health that will be sent to them while they're waiting for their meeting with the career planner. Joel, I see you have a question.
I was just wondering on this, like in the system itself, how does it get sort of registered within the system that the assessment has been completed? Because this whole discussion about, it creates an enrolling service, it would, if it's just when you finally click the button that says the assessment is complete, then that would just be tell your career advisors, don't click that button until you're damn sure that this person's going to go into training.
The system will auto-enroll customers in a comprehensive and initial service once that getting started assessment is submitted. Like I noted before, we've had conversations about this, and I know it's like everything, everyone has a different point of view and kind of a different um, flag to bear. Um, from our state perspective, from Mark's previous comment, when a customer is interacting with our system and seeking help on a one-on-one basis and kind of really interacting with us, um, we have to enroll them. It's like federal guidelines. It's
And
when
I think it's key here, if to Joel's point, if someone's just completing something online, there is no interaction yet. I
well,
think we've
this
got to be
getting started
cautious.
assessment is with the person. This getting started assessment is a stage in the process where someone has made an appointment and is answering questions with a participant. Career planner is having this conversation with a participant.
Okay.
At this point, a participant has entered the system, completed a pre-screen, filled out an application, submitted documentation, signed an eligibility certification, and now they are having a conversation with a career planner. So they're deep into this process and also having, a conversation about their goals and potential challenges to reaching those goals at this point in the stage.
And Sarah, would it be fair to say, the state recognizes that currently local areas have a variety of practices in terms of how much assessing they do before they enroll someone in WIOA. And the state is moving to a consistent statewide process where the point of enrollment happens before the consideration of training suitability and assessment and that level of assessment. And the state recognizes that that's going to be different for local areas that are currently doing those assessments before they enroll someone in WIOA. Did that make sense?
Was that to me? Yeah, we have
I
had.
just want to confirm, because that's sort of what I'm seeing as the chat is I'm seeing a lot of people saying like, this is very different from what we currently do. We currently do a lot more assessment for suitability for training before we enroll someone in WIOA. So I want to say out loud that OET knows that this is a new approach for many local areas and acknowledges the fact that it's a change.
Yes. And I would also add the first, I believe it's like the first section or one of the first sections, you explore like the career and interest survey. So if they believe they want to be a truck driver, what's a day in the life of the truck driver? That's discussed with the career planner. That's the conversation where you would have like, oh, it looks like you'd be traveling a lot. Things like that. That's baked into that portion of this stage of the customer journey. Rory?
Yeah, and I think you did kind of partially answer it, Gina. Thanks. I just want to be sure. And again, sorry, this is where I get kind of confused from being on the design groups on Thursday for so long, and like when we've tested or seen some of these screens. So I might be getting some of them mixed up, the ones that the customers can do on their own and the ones that they do with us. So yeah, I wasn't sure. So with the getting started assessment, I thought that maybe some of those, I thought there was a certain number of those screens at the beginning that they do perform that complete on their own, or is it kind of like the pre-screening or the application where they could do the whole thing if they did want guidance with a career planner? They could sit with a career planner and do it with a career planner. But is it? Yeah, I wasn't sure. Like, is there a certain number of screens, and then when they get to a certain point, it's like, okay, for the rest of these, you need to complete your assessment. Obviously, the assessment needs to be completed with the career planner. But I wasn't sure if I was getting. I'm like, oh, maybe I'm getting that confused with the pre-screening or the customer application. So there screens they do on they could do on their own.
You're
So
not
they
wrong,
read
Rory.
the history. So just like when someone submits their application, it's like, okay, get prepared. Here's some documents. They'll also be sent like a link of where you could upload employment history and also do the skills and interest survey. So those things they can kind of do before their appointment if they're getting antsy or they're, excited. If they don't do those things, it's fine. It won't interrupt their service of the getting started assessment at all. But from but the getting started assessment is not like the application and pre-screen, in that the application and pre-screen can be done on their own. The
Almost
getting started
entirely, where
assessment,
this one, it's not entirely.
yes, this one there
Oh,
are
there's the
elements.
slide. Okay, I see the
Yeah,
asterisk stuff. Got it. Okay,
yep,
thank you. I think I just missed that
there's
slide.
elements that they can do like as homework, kind of, but
Yeah,
the getting started assessment is done with the career planner. And that's because it is structured like a conversation. Tell me
sure.
more. What are your goals? I know all of you have gone through or most all of you have gone through the Jody Sue Kelly customer centered design training. We pulled a lot of that training into this getting started assessment, which is like what motivates you. Um, you know, what are issues with XYZ? That's baked into this, and that's why it's done with the career planner. But we
No, yeah,
are
we
over.
we'd rather do it like with, because at some point, yeah, if some of their expectations might not be unrealistic and you need to kind of guide them more towards different types of career exploration, it's no, where I was relieved because I was like, well, they can do this all on their own. And then it's like, well, sure, I assessed myself as being suitable for training, so okay, no, that's good. Thanks.
Awesome. Okay, I know we're over. We'll continue this conversation next week, and next week we'll have a more full agenda and logistic information for the now May 18th training. I'll send like a postscript email with this information, and then also keep in mind we'll be meeting with local directors from now throughout this process, so they're also aware of all of these things. But I know I told someone that I'd stay on afterwards, so I'll stay on here. If you have any questions about training or anything like that, I'll be on for a couple minutes. But if not, I'll see you all next week.
Thank you.
Thanks.